Comics Plus, what is going on? My name is Akasan. It's a pleasure to be with you today for my official Zack Snyder Justice League. Let's make that very, very clear. Zack Snyder's Justice League official review. A lot of you guys have been asking me to sort of give my opinions on this and let you know what's going on. We did a watch along on Twitch yesterday, which we had like over almost 300 something people watching me live for 4 hours, almost 5 hours, sitting and staring and giving my commentary on the movie and my impromptu and honest reaction. So I appreciate all of you guys that showed up for that Twitch watch here. I'm not making any edits here because somebody's gonna take something out of context here, and they're gonna be so mad at some of the stuff that I may not have to say here. That you guys are gonna get completely raw, no cuts, no edits. I'm just want to go through this and give you guys my thoughts. It's been a little less than a day here. Almost a day here. Day and a half, 14 hours, 16 hours since I just finished the Snyder Cut. I took a long walk, and I gave my short sort of piece on it on Twitter, and then I gave a little longer piece on Instagram. Make sure you follow me on my social links there. And I thought that was basically the best version, but everybody's been asking me to make a piece on it on YouTube and let you know what I thought. So here we go. Basically, the keyword is, and again, for the people that are like, yes or no, did you like it? Check out the Twitter review. That's it. that's your simple version, because it's a lot more than that. I really hate when people do that. So that being said, let me go ahead and give you my breakdown of this film, and this is only after watching it one time. I didn't go back, I didn't reanalyze things. I'm giving you my opinion as a critic, and later down as a DC fan, particularly a Batman fan, and overall just someone as a business, on the business side of things. So I'm giving you kind of like three different sort of breakdowns, so to speak, because I definitely see this movie as three different types of ways. I may not be affiliated with Warner Brothers, but I understand. I work with Warner Brothers, and I understand where they're coming from at certain times at certain places. So, all that being said, the key word I felt in my feeling with this movie is excessive. The key word is basically excessive, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I was doing a rewatch of the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman for the first time ever. And I was watching this movie, and I was like, what is the issue? What's the biggest thing that I'm taking away from here? And it's excessive. It's excessive with everything, except excessive in the saturation, excessive in the action, excessive in the violence, obviously, excessive in everything, but devoid of any sort of tone of lightheartedness with BVS, right? And I feel like Justice League essentially learns a lot from that. Not 100%, but I definitely feel like Zack Snyder's Justice League learned a bit from the backlash of BVS, and you start to see that a lot in the second half of the movie. The first part of the movie is pretty much by Zack Snyder by the numbers, I pretty much feel, and it's pretty much the same sort of movie that we got in the theatrical release, just more excessive. We see Wonder Woman killing dudes, like that was it's interesting to see that, and then go to Wonder Woman 84. But again, this is Zack Snyder's. This is unapologetically Zack Snyder's vision, and that's the mind frame you have to go into when watching this 4-hour cut of what is the Justice League here. And in some ways, I also feel like it's kind of a cathartic sort of situation for Zack Snyder to just sort of, he's letting, kind of exercising some of his demons sometimes, and this is the way that he sees the superhero world. We've seen many interviews. I was reading some interviews today on why Justice League, his version of the Justice League, is so violent. He really does see these beings as gods among men. And, that's fine. That's his direction. That's the way he wants to take it. We're seeing it through. He probably would be best suited just for making an Elseworlds type story. And I think he's at this point admitted that he's basically doing kind of like an Elseworlds sort of situation. And I think that honestly, if we went across that direction, I feel like we could have really saved a lot of headaches for all fans. Understanding that this is just his kind of take on it. It's not canon, but this is basically his sort of take. And if he was just really just doing the Injustice movie, I think that would have saved a lot of headaches for a lot of people. So what is that noise? So let me go ahead and breaks this down here on what I think, what I liked, what did I like the most? Because again, this is Zack Snyder's Justice League, and interesting enough, I just saw the theatrical version of Justice League beforehand. So right, the night beforehand. So it was interesting. I don't know if that influenced a lot of my opinions on this movie, but in rewatching the theatrical version, outside of the horrific reshots and some other situations I'll get into later, I kind of felt like, again, this is the executive, the business person of me talking. I kind of see what, especially after seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League, I kind of see what direction Warner Brothers was trying to go. It's how they were trying to wrap things up, how they were essentially trying to bring a cartoon to life. The Bruce Timm style of Justice League to life, picking up the scraps and essentially just trying to get people to be excited, to kind of get people to be, a little more lighthearted in tone, but essentially to actually have some sort of heroes, to walk out of that theater being like, all right, cool, these are some heroes that I can believe in and such. And I feel like the Snyder Cut is essentially the opposite of that, which is understandably so. Again, going back to the way Snyder sees his heroes as gods among men, I think there's a big contrast with that. But let me tell you what the best part about the Snyder Cut is for me, is first and foremost that Wonder Woman that was completely cleaned up. They like the one of the things I hated the most about the theatrical version was the over gratuitous, if we're talking excessive, the over gratuitousness of sexifying Wonder Woman, crotch shots, smashed up titties, ass shots, all of this stuff. Like, look, I love women, maybe a little too much, and I talk about it all the times on my streams, but that's not the place for Justice League, man. What in the fuck was that all about? That was the biggest problem, and I mentioned that coming out of the theatrical version of it, this over sexification, falling on her titties and everything, all of that stuff, man, man, unbelievable. So it was a huge breath of fresh air to see Snyder essentially bring back Amazon Wonder Woman. Essentially, again, I feel like it was a little too excessive that she was like murking these dudes and killing people with her bracelets and shit. But again, in this Zack Snyder world, I get where he's coming from. I don't think it's what we need for building a franchise and such, but I see where he's going kind of in his world, right? But I think that they did a great job with that. Most importantly, I like the fact that they actually gave Cyborg a deeper of a story. I felt like I actually felt like the theatrical version wasn't as bad as people try to make it out to be, but I definitely feel like they cut out a lot Well, now that I see that they really cut out a lot of backstory, uh, in terms of how it relates to the overall story. And I like the fact that we got more of Cyborg. I like the fact that Ray Fisher was able to put a really step forward with his performance a lot more. They made him a little more centric to the overall plot, which I think worked a lot better in the Snyder Cut. Why Cyborg is around. They gave him more. I don't know how important, how dire that was to the actual plot of it, but I think it was cool to actually see that there was a lot more. It reminds me a lot of how Cyborg's involvement in the animated series by his name escapes me right now, and I feel so bad about that. But you know what I'm talking about. The universe that just ended, Cyborg was a very big part of that as well. So I think they did a really good job with that. And also there was a lot of stuff that the people of color, there was a lot of people of color that were included in this version. And again, I don't know if this is coincidental or not, but all of these people that were in here, Cyborg's dad, there was a waitress scene, Cyborg's mom, there was a lot going on, and all of that was cut. It was good to see that expansion of more people included, especially Ryan Choi as well. I like the sort of name drop toward the end. Now, what I will say though is, again, I don't know if this is coincidental or not that a lot of people of color hit the editing floor, but there's a lot going on in Zack Snyder's Justice League. There's a lot more characters. There's a lot more story arcs. And again, executive part of me speaking, business side of me speaking, it reminds me a lot of the faults of BVS, trying to do so many things in one movie, but the title is supposed to be Batman versus Superman, right? But you're having Wonder Woman included, you got the Doomsday thing, you got the death of Superman, you have all these extra things going on. I feel like that's essentially what the Justice League, the Snyder Cut version of the Justice League is you have a lot of extra stuff going on. And yeah, it is impossible to get that all in 2 hours. So I get that point. But it was good to see all this extra stuff in here, if some of it not really being that necessary. The other part that I really liked was the music. The music was by far way better this time around. But at the same time, I felt that it was kind of a 50-50 mix, and most of the time I felt like it was perfect. I hated the recycled garbage of the theatrical versions. The Batman, like I know what they were trying to do, but I didn't like that nostalgic touch at all. Though I will say there was one particular scene in the theatrical version that, for me, yeah, it's campy, but it's essentially when Steppenwolf is talking mad shit to everybody, and then Superman shows up, and he's like something about hope, and he's like, well, I believe in hope and a little bit of justice. And I'm like, yeah, it's so corny, but it's like so Superman to me. Like that's like so, and so the version that we get in Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's different, but it's not exciting. It's just kind of what I think he said something like, it was like kind of like a Mortal Kombat sort of thing. Pathetic. Like cute, it barely tickles. Like he sounded like a Mortal Kombat taunt or something like that, right? So there's times where the music in Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut is by far much better. When Wonder Woman shows up and when she comes in, boom. When she comes, it's great. That mix, that Amazonian Wonder Woman mix was like the perfect timing. Like I was about to be so disappointed when they kept on doing the Wonder Woman, the Amazon theme, but then when the perfect sync right into Wonder Woman, that made that bank scene so awesome, man. Unfortunately, probably for theatrical reasons, for licensing reasons, the Flash, I think the theatrical version of Flash's music, I'm sorry, Flash's introduction, the music used in a theatrical version was better, because it was just kind of this like they were using Blackpink, and it was such an exciting sort of feel, and kind of shows like Barry looking at all the TVs and pop culture. He's absorbing everything, lightning fast, so to speak, right? Probably for licensing purposes, they just couldn't get Blackpink to be relabeled onto this particular cut. So that was kind of a letdown, that situation. But whatever, it's not that important. I will definitely feel like, this is, again, with the music basically lent itself to Zack Snyder's mood, and I think that's fine. So again, the music really stood out a lot, worked a lot overall, worked a lot better than the theatrical version, and such, and especially the utilization of the Man of Steel soundtrack was so well done in this particular one. They also, and the one of the things I hated the most about both of the versions was the grave robbing, the resurrecting of Superman. I know it needed to be done, and I just wish they did it a little bit better and a little more respectfully. The whole tossing of his father's photo just to the side into the water, things like that, right? I hated it in the theatrical version. The music made the Snyder Cut version much better. I still didn't like it. It still makes, I still felt really uncomfortable with it completely. But as Aquaman, this is a bad idea. But the music in this version made it a little more suitable and workable for me to kind of get over, so to speak. All right, moving on here, because we're at the 17-minute mark here. I want to just wrap this up here. So that's what I liked. Those are the things that I liked, and I like the fact that, and again, this is a movie. The Snyder Cut is essentially for a movie for the fans. It's a great achievement that people, what the fans have been asking for, the people that have been wanting to see the Snyder Cut, it's finally out. They can finally get it. We can all kind of sort of put this to rest, because for the longest time it was like a mythical unicorn, right? But now it's finally satisfied. Everybody can be satisfied with having this cut out here. So I'm glad that the fans of Zack Snyder's work were able to get what they wanted, and we have the theatrical version for people who like that particular style, and then for the people that were promised something from the beginning of Man of Steel, BVS, and then finally they can get what they wanted. That sort of style, that sort of tone is in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So a round of applause for all of those people that were wanting that and wanting to see that. So it's good. So for me, we're going to just wrap this up here. For me, I don't think I like either one overall. I don't prefer either one. I think somewhere in between, there's probably the right movie for me. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think the Snyder Cut is very, very, again, excessive, but it's supposed to be excessive. I would have loved to have seen a take. I would have loved to have gone back. I want to be like the Flash. I want to go back in time here, and I would have loved to have seen Snyder and Warner Brothers come to more of a compromise, and like I definitely don't think the Snyder Cut needed to be 4 hours, but I would have loved to have seen something along the lines of 2 hours and 40 minutes, possibly 3 hours or so. And I would have loved to have seen something like that. There's elements of the theatrical version that I actually think should not be so dispelled. Again, this is the business side of me, and the DC fan side of me is essentially letting people know, look, there's gems in the theatrical version of it. I get where they were kind of trying to go. It goes back to the whole idea of trying to showcase heroes more in a positive light, more of a positive light. You want to leave the theater, you know, when you're in the business of making these movies, you want to leave the theater excited about it. You want to be able to have kids go off and buy toys, you know, all that stuff. It doesn't need to be all the way toward Batman and Robin style, but it definitely needs, you need to leave it like excited and not this feeling of just like, ugh, hope and hopeless, so to speak. And I feel like that's always been sort of the problem with Snyder's take on a lot of these movies, is they're very polarizing. Whether you like it or not, whether you admit it or not, his movies are very polarizing, and I don't think that's really the attitude that we as fans should continue to be going forward. I want to see, in a perfect world, I want to see DC movies succeed. I want everybody to relatively be happy when a DC movie drops. I will never forget in my life, one of the biggest moments of my life was Christmas and watching, I believe, The Dark Knight with my family. And it was the one comic book movie that I could sit and watch with my family, and all of my family enjoyed it. Like, they all were like, they were like, wow, this was a really good movie. This is a Joker and the Batman. Like, this is a comic book movie. That's the feeling I want to get back to again with DC movies. I don't like this inner fighting every time. Like, when you have to actually sit down and have these discussions and debates on whether a movie was good or not, are appealing to people. I don't know if that's really the right direction that we should be going, especially right now. Especially right now, where Marvel has basically ended their sort of crusade after 10 years. This would have been the perfect time for DC to essentially capitalize on something where everybody could really enjoy and walk away satisfied. And I feel like they are going in that direction right now with Aquaman, with the Joker, and possibly with the Batman, that people are walking around away being really, really satisfied. But if every time a movie, particularly the mainstream, the supposed to be the showcase movies, Batman v Superman and the Justice League, if every time those movies drops and all it is a bunch of inner fighting, that's not winning. That's the opposite of winning, right? And so in my, in my world, I suppose parts of the theatrical version shouldn't be ignored. A lot of it is horrible, but obviously it's not the movie that Joss. I mean, let's make one thing clear: he is a horrible human being behind the scenes. But let's be, as a director, I'm definitely, that's not the movie he would have wanted to have his name on. It's not the movie Zack Snyder would want to have his name on. It's a Frankenstein of just a lot of panic and whatever. But there's things about that I certainly feel shouldn't be ignored as, okay, I see what they're trying to do. A lot of people, and I said this a few days ago about humor and tone and all this other stuff, like people automatically equal humor to Marvel movies or something like that, and that's not necessarily the case. I realized this while watching BVS, is that Snyder has a tone of basically I wrote it down. He has just kind of this tone of like murky seriousness throughout most of these movies. Even with Man of Steel, I guess it's like it's just this very gray, dark. I wouldn't necessarily say depressing, but basically this very gray, serious tone throughout most of the his movies, and it's serious. Action happens, and then it's everybody like, okay, we got to figure out how to do this. We got to make this figure out. Like, it's a very like realistic. It's part of a realism of I would say nihilistic sort of approach. Whereas though humor doesn't mean, again, the Marvel kind of over the Thor Ragnarok style, which I hated. Um, Humor is a way of catharticism. Humor is a way of just lightening the mood sometimes. Humor is when you have bills that you need to pay, sometimes you make jokes about it. You know? If something bad happens in your life, you don't make a joke to laugh it off, disregard it, the seriousness of it, but you do sometimes try to get something to lighten the mood to help you ease through the process. And that's a very realistic part of life. And that's something that I feel that was missing from most of Zack Snyder's work. I will point out though that in the Snyder Cut, the halfway down the line, at the 2 hour mark, you start to see some of those changes. You start to see some of those jokes and humor being injected into the movie, where it's not corny. Because let's be honest, the theatrical version was like really hammed on a little too much, right? But it was in there as a way of like, okay, they're kind of working through it. I felt like there could have been a little bit more to like with Superman to try to help him sort of get work as an actual team with the rest. Like, he's there, but for a minute basically. And it would have been nice to see him work with the team a little bit more or so. I don't know. But I felt like it wasn't not necessarily there to Superman. But I also feel from based on some interviews I saw with Zack Snyder, he hadn't gotten to that point yet. The Superman that he was kind of envisioning, it takes like 2 or 3 more movies or something like that to finally get to the red and blue, big blue, the Superman we all kind of love, right? So it is what it is. I'm glad that Zack Snyder's Justice League came out. It's long. Is it long? Yes. Is it worthwhile for fans? Definitely. For people who are curious, maybe. See it in doses. I know that Zach was actually interested in releasing it in four-parter series, but unfortunately, due to legal reasons, it was just becoming a mess. That's why he just left it as a 4-hour movie. It might have been interesting. I would be very, very curious to see what a 4-hour of an episodic version of this movie with the right editing, if it was cut. It is what it is. Okay, I'm done. So there you go. For the Snyder fans, it was a beautiful treat. For Zack Snyder, for everybody who wanted to see what this movie could have been, it was an awesome adventure, and I'm glad that we're kind of coming full closure to this. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the future of other DC films are on the cusp of. I'm glad that the Batman movie is in the can here. I'm glad that Aquaman 2 is still in development, I believe. We got the Black Adam movies coming out. I'm basically looking forward to the very bright future of DC films. And hopefully one day, way further down the line, we'll be able to get a more non-polarizing Justice League movie, and we'll actually able to have a Justice League movie where when they come together, you're actually kind of excited to see it, and you actually feel something for those characters. This isn't Zack Snyder's fault. This is all really on WB for trying to force an Infinity War, trying to force Avengers without letting us know anything about these characters beforehand. But I definitely would. I'm ready for that day. I'm sorry. I can wait this time. Take some time. Take some patience. Give us some time and let us start to enjoy these characters. And then finally, when they come together, we can really, really have a Justice League. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much. Make sure you check out the full reaction of the 4-hour full reaction on Patreon. It is available. Man. And we will see you on whatever comes next down the DC line. Thank you so much. Peace.